Good afternoon to all of you. I hope this session is useful and along the lines that I think is useful to you. And I have tried to put together my own analysis of how the government has worked for so far and what's going to happen and things. This is roughly the midpoint of the Modi government, though the exact midpoint is November because the next elections will be in April, May 2019. But I think with the budget going to move forward a little bit, probably you have to see the midpoint as coming a little closer than just 5 years. It'll more 4.5 years is the actual tenure of a government. The last 6 months will be all elections, and those kind of things. Most probably we will have a budget on an election year that's closer to January rather than February, because this year itself we are planning to move those things, right? Okay. The interesting thing about the Modi government is an unusual kind of paradox. This government has actually, to use a cricket analogy, dropped all the easy catches and done diving catches. They have not actually done what was easy to them. I mean, if you look at the things that are most easy for a government to do, it's the budget. Because the budget is fully in the executive's control, nobody can say no to it. You have a government with a majority, you can pass it. But we have had 2 flop budgets and a third budget which is just about okay, right? Whereas every incoming budget could have used a first budget to really set the Ganga on fire, but they didn't do that. I mean, first budget, as somebody put it, it was a Chidambaram budget with saffron lipstick. So it actually didn't do. And the second budget, if you see, was a super flop because they said they'll cut corporate taxes. We have not heard anything of it. The third budget has come and gone. We haven't seen any of it. So what was directly in the government's control, they actually didn't deliver much on that. So we have 3 budgets and not great strides have been made. But interestingly, what has happened is that they have been very strong on the other thing. Where we thought they will have the maximum problem, they actually did much better. You know, for example, the kind of, with the exception of one law, which was the land bill, I think every other law that was necessary to get reforms going and all that has been done, if you actually see. So that's basically the paradox of the Modi government. They spent 2.5 years dropping all the easy catches, and they spent a lot of diving catches, and that's what they've done. This is the interesting thing. But it's good for the country. It may not have been good for what he had. Typically, governments are said to have a honeymoon period of about 90 days, but this government actually used that honeymoon period to pass only one law, which got rejected. That is called the National Judicial Appointments Commission. The only law that was passed during the honeymoon period has been rejected by the Supreme Court. So, and that has set up some other things. So, all the interesting laws actually came long after the honeymoon period. Okay. Now, I'm just enumerating some of the things. Legislatively, this government has been in hyperactive mode. Despite a lot of political opposition, you have seen umpteen bills passed. I mean, if you see, the coal, minerals, insurance bill all passed, bankruptcy code passed, Aadhaar expansion passed, real estate bill passed, Apprentices Act passed, Debt Recovery Act passed, Goods and Services Tax work in progress, but almost done. It will take the next 2 years to implement it. But it's a fantastic legislative record, which I think we cannot say anything less about. So we got to see what this thing. The other successes are really in the reforms and policies which are executive-led. We have seen the Janadhan inclusive banking project. In fact, it has major implications for all of you because I think I'll come later on to one slide when it comes to the mutual fund industry. Because the average ticket sizes as you go down the pyramid will keep falling. And if you do not use technology to sell your products, you will not succeed because it's not about big clients anymore. It's about small clients with small amounts, with more regular amounts. You have to see whether a Narega fellow is going to put 25 rupees in a mutual fund every year, every month or not. And for that you need to be technology led. So that's the impact this will have. Subsidy reforms are going very strongly well. I mean, they're actually shifting, the LPG has already worked. Kerosene, now they're not going to deal with it directly. They're going to shift LPG more to the rural areas. so that over a period of time kerosene will be eliminated altogether. There will be very few kerosene customers, and LPG is the one that will shift. Then, planning commission is gone, but Niti Aayog is yet to find its feet, but it will do so in due course. You have had deregulation, which has already happened. Petrol, diesel are now fully determined by the companies. The union budget will undergo a very big change next year because you will subsume the railway budget in it, and it might also move to January. And there will be no, the end of planning process is over. 12th plan is the last plan. It ends like next March, and after that there is no more plan. There is only a vision document. So that's what Niti Aayog will do. So you won't have plan expenditure, non-plan expenditure. You will only have capital budget, revenue budget. That's what you will get in the budget document. So all these big changes have happened actually, all in the executive side. Then you've got public investments in road, which is one good thing that's happening because generally growth is not reviving. So the government is pump priming it by investing a lot through railways and roads. That's what's happening in the reform side. We are already seeing some visible results of all the executive action. We have seen and legislative action. I think coal and spectrum auctions have already happened. They'll keep happening, and the one is starting next week. So, in 1st of October, that will happen. That the fact that there is stability in the government has increased your FDI flows very strongly. Portfolio flows are very stable. They'll probably go up next year as you go over the thing. And you know better than me that equity flows, domestic investments are rapidly catching up slowly. I think people have got into the habit of SIPs, and it is balancing the factor with FIIs. Earlier, we are a one-trick pony. If FI is in, market's up. FI is out, market's down. Now you have a balancing factor, both because EPFO is now investing in this thing, and you have SIPs doing the same thing. Okay, and the other thing is inflation is largely coming under control. Largely because I think one is because of the oil factor, but also we have good food management except in pulses, which anyway is getting fixed. So we have got a very stable economy. The message from the center is that black money will not be tolerated. Of course, it's not gone, but the thing is it is certainly not expanding at the rate it was. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we are having problems, but I'll come to that a little later. The other visible results you can see, power sector is actually reviving, coal sector is reviving. All the things that went down under UPI and are up again. You got to see major digitization of the economy is happening, including rapid expansion in e-commerce, Reliance, Jio, game changer. There are so many things that are happening that in the digital space. Renewable energy has become a big ticket expense, big ticket slow but steady thing. They are talking about very huge volume increases in capacity. Now these will have a huge impact once you come to the actual implementation. I think they are planning something like 175 gigawatts and all in solar power and all that. So I think you're going to see big things. So what we are basically seeing is that executive action has led to big results. Budgets have been messed up, but legislative action has gone well. So executive and legislative have worked together, but the actual finance ministry hasn't done all that great. Okay, this is going to have a huge impact, because I think in 5 years' time, if we emphasize financial literacy, which we talked about in the last session, India is going to become more and more cashless. You won't need ATMs, you won't need credit cards, you won't need bank branches, you won't need most things. You in your mutual funds, if you do not shift to the mobile as the basis for selling, you will have a tough time selling because your average investor is going to go lower and lower down the pyramid. You have to use mobile for selling everything. So I think that's a very huge change that's coming. I suspect that in 5 years' time, most transactions will shift to the mobile. And ticket sizes are cheaper to handle on the mobile because it doesn't cost you. An average check transaction is some 40,000-50,000 rupees. In a mobile, your cost can come down. You can have 20 rupees. You can pay your panwala with the mobile. So the thing is, even for mutual funds, as you are handling crores of investors rather than thousands, you will have to shift to the mobile. And this is because financially, we are having a huge revolution on our hands. Okay, this is where I'll come to the failures now. Okay, I think our natural, even though the government is trying to speed up many things, the agricultural market is still stuck We do not have a national agriculture market, even though they are trying the e-mandi and various things. Factor markets in land and labor, not happening. I think these reforms will have to be done by states, but states are still not moving fast enough. A few states are moving in, but essentially these will not be done in the center. Land and labor laws will get changed. Some states are doing that. I think Rajasthan, Gujarat have done good reforms in labor, land and all that, and they have to drive the future reforms. Don't look at Delhi for future reforms, it's not going to happen. Then of course the perpetual things, electoral reforms not happening because too many parties are dependent on that, so they are not giving it up. Administrative reform, we have a steel frame that is rusted. I don't think they can deliver the goods because the rate of change in the economy has gone up so high and the rate of automation, globalization, everything has gone up so much that if you decide the way you are deciding now, you will not create the jobs because jobs are disappearing at a fast pace and they are appearing at a fast pace. So shifting those who are going to lose jobs into places where jobs are going to happen will need the government to be far more responsive. But without administrative reforms, you cannot do that. The other point is, of course, expenditure reform never happened. Only thing that happened was subsidy reform. So one part of it is taking place, but not really that. And judiciary, police and legal, in fact, I would say this is the most important reform because the fundamental rule of the law that you need in any good government cannot be done without these three reforms. We don't know how these things are going to shape up because Mr. Modi, what he has done is in the first half of his tenure, right up to the last few months, all his initiatives, Skill India, this India, that India has all come. Next 2 years, he will have to be no new schemes are going to come. They're all going to be in execution mode. It has to be about execution, 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 nothing more. So these things we do not know how they will shape up. Mudra Bank is going to disburse about 1.8 lakh crores this year. Okay, that's a huge amount. Now we don't know whether this is going to go as an NPA or it's just it's been distributed because you know how bankers behave. If you tell them now this is your target, go and do it, they'll catch anybody and give the loan. But because Mudra Bank is reimbursing them, so the risk has gone to the Mudra Bank. So they'll happily do stupid things like this. So it's more likely that you have got to do. Stand Up India, those are okay, those are very small schemes. So these are Skill India, we don't know because the economy is changing too rapidly and Skill India can't be a static process. Because suddenly, if tomorrow you have driverless cars, then what do you do with the millions of drivers you have today? You can't convert them all into mechanics or salespersons, right? So Skill India means that you must constantly think where the jobs are going to come and shift the people there. For that, I don't know if Skill India is ready for that. Also, we have terrible laws like RTE and right to food. RTE is a disaster. As soon as it came, thousands of schools closed down and the learning outcomes of people have come down. So they are talking about skills and the UPA laws are stuck there where I think people are learning less. They can't read, they can't write, they can't count. And that's what RTE has done. I mean, in the name of inclusion, they have ruined the whole education system, whatever was there. So that's a long term, you'll have to fix it. The other thing we don't know how it's going to happen is crop insurance. It will take time. We will know only next year after a drought, after a failure, after a flood. Once those things happen, we'll know whether it's a very good scheme from a farmer's point of view, but we don't know how it will work. Now I come to the failures of this government. I think, see, India is driven by the states. We are a state nation, not a nation state. That means India is a union of states. We are not centrally driven. We got the impression that it was run from Delhi because for 50 years we had one family running the show. So we thought everything is done from Delhi. And Mr. Modi partly reinforced that because he said, look, I am a very good executor. So we tended to have more expectations from him. But the reality is, it is states. You can't do Swachh Bharat sitting in Delhi or in central government. Swachh Bharat is about your municipal corporation and that municipal fellow is not doing anything. And so unless you do it shift, you have really directly elected mayors and other things, you need power to shift down. That's not happening. Our biggest problem today, which the government has really took 2 years to figure this out, which is a crime according to me, is that they didn't figure out that banks are in deep trouble. You've got 400 to 500,000 crores of bad loans. So if you don't fix that, where is growth going to revive, you know? And if you're going to give only 20,000 crores of capital support, how is it going to work? So that they should have thought many out of the box things they haven't done. So I think failure of revival of banks for 1.5, 2.5 years is a bad thing for this government. And corporate balance sheet recession, we know. Everybody is still deleveraging. The other problem is the structure of the economy has changed. In Vajpayee's time, there was far more jobs, but when growth doubled under UPA, the job creation fell by half. So what is happening is people are replacing, every unit of GDP growth is now generating less jobs. So that needs a huge thing, and I think the government has not fully come to grips with it, so that is going to be a major challenge as we go ahead. Overall economy is, is still weak, and real estate construction, which can actually create the jobs, are in deep trouble. Largely because politicians control it. You know who owns these real estate companies. You know who owns these things. You know who gives permission. All the value in real estate is being captured by politicians, builders, land mafia. Those are the guys. Today, it does not cost more than 2,000 rupees per square foot to build any house. But you have in Bombay 40,000 and 50,000. You have 6,000 properties in central Mumbai unsold, and you are adding another 2,500 this year. So 8,500 properties costing 5 to 7 crores, nobody is buying. Okay, and how are you going to sell it? Because who the hell is going to pay 5 crores and 8 crores for a house where there is no road to get out also? You'll have 3 cars, but you will not be able to get out onto the road. So this is the state of your real estate. So I can't see that happening. The other problem is, I think we should not fool ourselves that our economy is growing at 7.5% and 8% because our data is still a bit suspect. I think our real growth rate is probably around 6.5% measured under the old data thing. Here the problem is there are two things that are wrong with the current GDP data. One is they have suddenly used 500,000 companies from the MCA database, which all kinds of bogus companies are uploaded in that. So if you take the general result from there, what you get is maybe something quite wrong. So that's where I think. Other thing is privatization. If they do not speed up, they'll be in deep trouble. Already Air India is sick. Okay. Next you have two telecom companies. You have Reliance Jio. Who do you think will fail now? BSNL, MTNL. Already they are in deep trouble. So when Reliance Jio comes and gives you free voice calls, what are these fellows going to do? They'll be in deep trouble. So if you do not speed up privatization, you're going to have white elephants in the public sector. That's the scene. And if you don't privatize now, I think it is no longer an ideological option. It has to be a survival option for any government to privatize. Otherwise, you're in trouble. That same thing happens with banks. Today, you have payment banks, you have custodial banks, you have small banks, you have wholesale banks. Okay, they will occupy every niche. Today, payments banks will be what people will use. I mean, Airtel has 250 million customers. If even 10% of them join an Airtel bank, you're talking about a huge increase in their market share of banking. Okay. State Bank has 220 million customers. Airtel has 260 million customers. Okay. Now this is what we are talking, and Airtel is going to become a bank. Now you can imagine the kind of competition that will come, and if your banks are going to have thousands of branches and millions of employees, they are not going to be successful. At least 10 major banks are going to fail, and if you don't privatize them quickly or downsize them or do whatever you have to do, they are not going to survive. The other problem we are having now is exports are completely failing because we have not had growth for now nearly 17, 18 months, and I don't see that's coming. It's not the fault of this government that this is happening, but that is a reality. Okay, now we need to look at the political failures and social failures. Okay, now we know that they won a lot of elections. After the initial 4 elections that they won, they lost 2 very badly. That has made them recalibrate their strategy, where they are looking for local faces and local issues, which is why they won in Assam, made some strides in Kerala and all that. But 2016 is going to be unpredictable, because I think what is certain is that Akali BJP coalition in Punjab will certainly lose. We don't know who will win. We may not even get a clear majority with either, I don't think AAP will win. I think more likely the Congress will win, which is actually better for the BJP than AAP winning. So we'll have to see. The big test will be in Gujarat in 2017, because a lot of things have gone wrong. You have a new chief minister. If he does not prove that he is quite capable, You will either have a very low majority or a just under a majority. Many things can happen in Gujarat. UP is still a toss-up. We will know. I think as long as the SP was strong, the BJP had a good potential. Once the SP looks like it's disintegrating with all the family feuds and other things, so then the chances are BSP gets a better chance because minorities, as you know, might shift to what they feel is a stronger party. So that's likely. Whereas now this is different. 2018, you know, I don't think there will be any major adverse problem for BJP, at least, or this government in 2018. But 2017 is again a risky year, so that's what I want to say. Okay. I think one of the most successful areas has been India's foreign policy, excluding Pakistan. Okay, Pakistan, we have just seen what happened in Uri, what happened in Pathankot. So I think we have not been able to fix that terrorism problem, and we are not going to do that in a hurry. But otherwise, foreign policy of this government has been extremely good. You have been seen success after success, except about China and Pakistan. So the failure there is largely neighborhood failure, and we have to get something like that. These are what are some of the major things. I'll slip to that. The other thing, politically, there are other failures that are there. I think the BJP's partnerships with all its current allies is deteriorating. Okay. That is Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, TDP in Andhra Pradesh, possibly PDP in Jammu and Kashmir. PDP will probably not last the whole term. It will probably collapse in the next 6 months or 1 year. I expect that that government won't last. You will have governor's rule after that and then elections again. So because there is too much, yeah. The other thing is the BJP is losing the perception battle as far as the Dalit vote is concerned, because I think the media has been playing up those incidents, and your Gaurakshaks are not helping much. It's anti-minority. There are no minority guy I have heard who will vote for BJP. So if they lose the Dalit vote, they'll have a problem. So by the time we come to the 2019 election, I expect that the partnership base of the BJP might be quite different from what it was in 2014. Some changes will happen, some will fall apart, some will this thing like, but many often I don't expect a major fallout because of that. So this is my own personal rating of the scorecard of Modi. That's, I think, about 6 on 10 is what we would say. Good effort, but they flopped many things. I want you to just give us a quick understanding of Indian politics. What has changed? I think BJP has now become the central pole of Indian politics. Okay? The main opposition to the BJP is the regional parties, which means BJP has only 1 or 2 major opponents in key states and other things. Since Modi is much more popular than the BJP itself, what it means is that in 2019, the party will come back to power, but without a majority. It will probably get 180, 200 seats. That's like what, as of now, that's what it looks like. Because I don't think they will make the kind of gains, because a UP winning 73 seats, Gujarat 26 out of 26, Madhya Pradesh 25 out of, Rajasthan 25 out of, that cannot happen. Because you have to lose those 5-10 seats, and the gains that you're making in like Northeast and all will be 4 or 5 seats. In the South will be some 5-7 seats, you know. So the gains will not be as high. So you're going to have 200 or sub 200 total for the BJP. Okay, what is Modi trying to do with his party? I think he is trying to move, if you see, he has not talked about, he has shared his Gujarat image completely. He is talking about pro-poor, pro-farmer, subsidies, this, that, that's what he's doing. What he is trying to do is, he knows that the mainstream space is largely left. In India, there is no right-wing party. You're either left or lefter. So Modi is trying to be somewhere in the center with a slight center-right image, pro-business image, but not emphasizing his business image at all. So he is trying to shift his party to the center rather than the right. Other thing is, I think he is handicapped by the Hindutva image of the party, which is preventing his party from growing in the areas where it has a natural growth potential. I mean, like UP, Bihar and all, where the population of minority is very high. So you can't win those things purely on a Hindutva vote. So you're going to have some problems there. So he is trying to shift it. If he wins in 2019, I think he will be successful in shifting the party more clearly to the center. But if he loses traction, then it will be tough for him. This, as you know, I mean, it's not something that I need to emphasize. The point is, except for 4 or 5 states, we have had coalitions in almost every state. It's not just the center that has seen coalition, except for 4 or 5 states, except like say Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh or Rajasthan and all. In every other state, either there has been a coalition now or in the past. So in a sense, coalition culture has now permeated to the states. Because I think I wouldn't be surprised if UP has a coalition government in the next time. If Samajwadi falls to 80 and BJP gets 90, who will BJP tie up with? They may be more likely to tie up with Samajwadi rather than BSP. You never know. Or a split Samajwadi party. So there is coalition culture has now seeped down to this. If you see the last DMK government was supported by Congress from outside. They didn't get a majority. You know, Kerala has always been a coalition. Andhra can become a coalition. Only Telangana might remain a one-party state. But that's for the next foreseeable because they created the state now. But Orissa can have this thing. Orissa can have a BJP government next time. It's quite possible. You know, West Bengal was always a coalition till Mamata won. But next time she may not win in that kind of majority. So we are looking at special circumstances. Okay, this is my prediction of economic trajectory, which I briefly mentioned. I've already said that. Our growth will be driven by consumption, not investment, and consumption will be a fillip. But overall, the trajectory of the economy is positive. We're going to keep growing, but not at what you think it is. Interest rates are going to come down, various things. States have to lead the reforms in future. I'm going through it quickly because I'm running out of time. There are 2 reasons why growth is not picking up as fast as it should. One reason is black money has actually disappeared. Normally, earlier we used to recover very fast because there's a lot of black money. So if you are in trouble, people could bring in money through the black money route, notes, round tripping, anything else, or even underhand dealings to help their companies. Now they can't do that anymore. It's very difficult. So that is why what would normally have rebounded, companies are not rebounding. Second thing, of course, banks are in trouble. This is one more point. I think I won't explain it too much. We know judiciary has been getting into all kinds of areas. This is a big problem. It will take time to sort out. GST is a political thing, not an economic thing, okay? Because what the government has essentially decided is that instead of running 2 separate and clean indirect taxes, now indirect taxes has moved away from both the center and the states to a GST council, which means 29 states, 2 union territories and 1 center. It's a 30-legged race, not even a 3-legged race. So you'll have to get 30 fellows to say yes, yes, yes before you can do anything. So it is a very slow process, okay? So I think we should expect 2 years of trouble in GST. It's a political minefield. We have to watch for it. Overall, I'll conclude with some points on the markets. I think the markets will do well because I think there are positives coming up. Interest rates are falling, various things. And I'm sure that there's good news for most of people in the mutual fund area. That's what I think. Thank you very much.
We'll take a question. We have one in the front.
Hi, okay. So there was a small sentence on income declaration scheme which you did not touch.
Which one?
The voluntary disclosure of income scheme.
Yeah.
And one pointer on GST. We've been told that wherever GST has been introduced in the world, the party that introduced it never won the next election.
Yeah, because what happens is GST believes in widening the tax base, right? So which means if today 50% of the small fellows are not paying tax or evading it or you evade it, tomorrow you have no option because the big fellow will tell you, I will not get a tax credit unless you pay tax, unless you register, you know. And so that will obviously in the first 2 years there will be massive anger. And remember, the small trader is the BJP's base.
Yes.
So it is a very risky political thing to do now. That's why they're trying to speed up and finish it in 2017. But it won't happen because 30 people have to be convinced. 30 states have to be convinced.
So can they take the risk of, actually getting it through before the elections come?
No, I don't think so. I think what they should do is they should hold all the preliminary talks and implement it in July 2019.
Okay. And this income declaration scheme, if I'm not wrong, last time when it was introduced, we had given a declaration to the Supreme Court that something like this is not coming again.
Yeah.
But it has come again.
No, but this is a very penalty-oriented scheme.
Okay.
So the economics does not favor. Last time when Chidambaram did it, he got a lot of money.
Yes.
Because there is almost no taxation.
Yes.
Just like paying the normal tax. This time what has happened is he's paying 45% tax.
Yeah.
And
So-
in that earlier foreign scheme it was 60%.
Yes.
So that's why he got very low declarations.
So there is market grapevine now going on that towards the end of this month, there are going to be big raids, especially from the income tax and these excise guys, on big industrialists, builders, jewelers, to compensate for the shortfall which they have not got. So there is a lot of talk about it. So I don't know whether you heard
The
about it.
point is, doing the raid after 30th September means they won't get the money.
Before.
Before they've got only 1 week left.
Exactly, that's what they are saying, 26 to 28th, with
but-
dates.
Correct, but once you're raided, it is difficult to declare because you're then already a party. So my guess is they have promised to raid after 30th. So they are threatening it so that you come and declare now. So they are not raiding during the scheme when it's open. Sorry, I can probably take a
Yeah,
question
we'll
or
take
two.
one more question.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
There is a perception that, a small guy or a businessman is harassed, and I mean, there is no effort to go after big guys. So how far this is, like in the black money scheme for foreigners, there are a lot of news about, people migrating out of India, mainly because of the fear that, they'll be harassed because of this. And now IDS also a lot of, fear psychosis is being created. So how far it is true, and do you see any effort from the government going after the big guys in a really meaningful manner?
No, I don't think they will go. What they have actually done is reduce the level of top level corruption directly in the Modi government. What they have not done is institutionalize it, because one thing is, see, at the state level none of this is happening. So the big chaps, I mean, you have seen the Vijay Mallya and Lalit Modi is going out. But the thing is, I don't think they will go after big guys at all.
Especially the politicians or,
No, yeah, correct. And
Because basically that is where the big black money
yeah,
would
correct.
be.
Because whenever the elections come, they will not be able to go after them. It's not, what they can do is they can reduce corruption and quid pro quo. What has also changed in the center is not that people are not paying money. That's what I hear. What I hear is that there is no quid pro quo. Meaning he is not saying that if you do this, I will give you this license. License तो आपको कैसे भी मिलेगा. But then once you get the license, साहब कुछ पार्टी के लिए कर दीजिए. That's the way it happens. That's what I hear.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience?
Okay.
One at the back.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
With the kind of majority that this government has and the score that you ended up giving 6 out of 10, was it possible to shoot for a higher score? And if it, certainly, of course, it was possible. So, which were the major failure areas or improvement areas that would have been different? The score would look more rosy.
Right. My personal thing was an incoming budget has, a government has to use the first two budgets very, very creatively and stamp its mark. It didn't do that. So they actually messed up a very great opportunity. I mean, whatever big changes they want to do, they should have done in the 2014 budget. But they just presented Chidambaram's budget back again. So if they wanted to make a change in the substantial, they didn't do it. In second budget, they attempted something. They said they'll cut corporate taxes from 30 to 25%. But then we never heard about it in the third budget. So what is this? I mean, when you are messing up with the budget, that's one reason why I thought it was. But they've been very strong on the legislative side. So if they implement all the legislation, it's very good for the country. So I certainly think, I think they have to clean up their relationship with the judiciary, even though I believe judiciary is more at fault in this case. But we need to, but they still have to find a way through, but let's see what happens. I think we will continue to have the terrorism problem, so they have to deal with it. Then we have social change coming up in a big way, because I think all sections of society are now aspiration driven. So in this kind of a situation, nobody wants just minor concessions. Everybody is looking for big gains for himself. Because in this media age, everybody knows that lots of things are possible. So whether it is a Dalit or an OBC or anybody for that matter, is looking for very real empowerment and real gains in his personal life. So aspirations are very difficult to meet for any government, especially in an era where technology has changed the future of jobs. So once upon a time, it could be done easily. But today it's not possible. So you need even more proactive governance So even though Modi is far more technology savvy than any previous prime minister, but the point is, it's not about using technology in government. It is about the implications of technology for your society, which I think you have to look at it as the key thing. I think, and I hope they address that issue fast. Otherwise, you're going to have a social time bomb on your hands.
We have one more question in the front.
Okay.
Sir, like you mentioned that next year budget will be changed from January onwards. So what is the logic behind that, and what is the logic to combine the railway budget with the general budget?
It's a very simple thing. The reason for bringing the budget forward is if you present it in January, you can pass it by March. Today what happens is, because the budget provisions are applicable from 1st of April. Today you don't know what budget is actually passed because you're passing it in the middle of May. That means 1.5 months of the budget are already over, and you're passing the budget after the financial year starts. So that's the reason to bring it in January and finish it by March. You also don't need a vote on account, because earlier what you used to do is, to spend in the first 2 months of the year, you have to pass a vote on account. That is, you use the same as last year's spending pattern for the first 2 months, and then pass the budget, and then you use the current year's provisions. But this is changed. The second reason for the railway budget is, railways ultimately are a corporate entity. And if you are to run it on commercial lines, if you start making it a budget, then it becomes a political document all the time. So when you merge the railway budget and thing, then the railway minister can focus on developing the industry, corporatizing it, improving the accounting systems, various things. Instead of saying, I have made one line from Hyderabad to Timbuktu and all that. So then, which will never do. You'll get a foundation stone and it will be lying there. This is what happens in railway budget. So it's not required. So whatever he has to do, he can do.
Is it not necessary that everywhere we see that budget is from calendar year? Generally we see in developed countries. So like that we can't envelop over here?
Yeah. In
Calendar
fact, that is the long-term plan. I think they are now moving it to January. Ultimately, if they go ahead with that, Shankaracharya committee will give a report on that. I think my guess is budget will shift to end September or October. Then budget will be effective from January to March, and it will get passed in December. But this is one step they are moving one at a time. So they moved from February to January. In next round, they can move it to December or November and then finish it off by 2019. Yeah, thank you.